Welcome to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge, your front row seat to the boldest ideas and smartest strategies in the marketing game. Your host is Reed Hansen, Chief Growth Officer at MarketSurge.
Hello and welcome to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge today. And we're joined by someone who has not only coached entrepreneurs into 6, 7, and 8 figures, but has helped them find piles of money hiding right under their noses. And let's be honest, if someone can help business owners find profit they somehow missed, it's basically a superpower. Stacey Hylen is a globally recognized business growth strategist, the author of Hidden Profits, More Clients and Cash, and an international keynote speaker who's been featured everywhere from CNN and Inc. to Fox Business. Before launching her powerhouse consulting brand, she served as VP of Consulting for Chet Holmes and Tony Robbins' Business Mastery program. So yes, she's coached the coaches who coach the coaches. Stacey helps entrepreneurs scale using smart marketing, ethical sales, and cutting-edge AI integration. Stacey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Reed. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm honored that you join. Now, you've coached everybody from small entrepreneurs very early to 8-figure large businesses. What first pulled you into the world of business growth strategy? What's the backstory there?
I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. So I started selling in 3rd grade and then started selling B2B by 5th grade. So my dad had us read sales books and we would practice sales closes at the dinner table. And I'm the only one in the family that it rubbed off on. My brother and sister didn't. But I went into sales. And then in my last sales job, I was in a straight commission, very consultative sales process that I used to do. And I was working in the beauty industry and I was actually helping the entrepreneurs grow their company. So I would be selling this extremely expensive product, but I would say, well, what about doing this with your marketing? And how about doing this with your sales process? And one of my clients increased her sales 200% in less than a year. And so I was like, this is so much fun. And I really enjoyed doing that so much that I said, you know what, let's look into this. And that was right at the point that coaching was starting with Thomas Leonard, who was the father of coaching, and started talking about that. So that's how that got started.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about, what topic you coach on. Tell us what scaling means and what are the misconceptions around that term, scaling as a business?
I think one of the things is that everybody wants to scale, but they don't really have. A lot of times I see the problem with that is people don't have their lifestyle design in place as they're looking to scale. So yes, people can scale and get to a certain level of business, but if it's at the expense of your family, at the expense of your health, you're going to be 80 years old sitting in your rocking chair saying, yeah, I did it wrong. And, I have clients who have gone from 6 to 8 figures since we've been working together. And one of the things that one of them said to me, he said, I see a friend of mine who has a 9-figure business. And he said, but he's divorced. His kids don't talk to him. He has so many regrets. And this was even before the guy was old. So he said, I'm so grateful that I've been working with you, that I've been able to grow my business, but also, when his daughter was stressed out, he was able to take some time off and go take her out to get some time alone and talk things through. And, he's able to play golf and spend time with his friends and family. So I really believe that scaling, you also need to incorporate that lifestyle design at the same time.
Fantastic. So, this has led to you writing a book, Hidden Profits. And, I understand the focus of it is finding revenue that's already sitting in the business. So tell us a little bit about the book and what are some of the most common hidden profit treasures that businesses are sitting on?
So the idea for the book came from the last recession. When I was working for Tony Robbins, it was his very first business mastery event that he did when he and Chet Holmes got together as partners. And he had said something at that event, and to make a long story short, he said, it's not about having the resources to grow your business. It's about becoming resourceful to grow your business. And so that was during the recession. And I started having all these clients that had a lot of challenges that, people might be seeing the same thing today with tariffs and all of these things going on. And back then people were having their bank loans, their line of credits dried up, big orders that they already had were canceled. So I was like, all right, so it's not about the resources. It's about being resourceful. So that's how the hidden profits came about, was let's look at this business and see the money that they have in it that we can do without doing any marketing or advertising. So to give you an example, one of my favorites comes from what I call the $700,000 mistake. And depending on the person listening, this could be a $7,000 mistake or a $7 million mistake. But in this case, this guy was one of my clients. He canceled his coaching call with me. And he said, I had a sale of 100,000. So obviously that takes precedence over talking to me for the moment. And so he said, wow, this is a great thing. I was all ready to celebrate with him. And he said, Stacey, this was not a good thing. And I mean, can you imagine $100,000 sale not being exciting? And he said, well, Stacey, what happened was this client has been going to my competitor for 7 years. 7 years of this client going to his competitor. So $700,000, like bloop, 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 bloop. So at that point, it made me think reactivation, the come on back strategy. So I got really passionate about that hidden profit for all of my clients, that they have that cash right in their business of clients that have worked with them before. They like, know, and trust you. And they really just need a reminder, an invitation, and sometimes permission to come back and do business with you again. Because sometimes there's a little bit of shyness that they went off somewhere else and tried something else. And you want to give them permission, like, hey, I'd love to have you back. And sometimes, we'll put together an offer or something like that to have people come back to your business.
Okay. Well, that's helpful. Did you enjoy writing the book? Was it a good, healthy exercise, or was it really difficult?
It's been difficult, we'll just say. So I'm more of a talker. I like to write, but I more of blog posts, things like that. Like an actual book was a big undertaking. But I know the hidden profits. It's full of exercises. And I've since put this into a custom GPT also, nice. So that now you can go in, get the hidden profits in the book, go to the custom GPT, see which ones are good for you, where you're at in your business, what are the resources you have in your business that we can really accelerate. Okay. And so that's been a lot of fun to do that.
Yeah,
as well.
No, that's a great use of the custom GPT. And you shared a great example. Are there other common profit leaks you see, business leaders making on a regular basis?
Yeah. So one of the big ones is pricing. And that is, most people are undercharging or they haven't raised their rates. So one of the big things that I'll ask clients is, when was the last time you raised your rates? And some people, that'll be like, it was 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, I've had people that was 7 years, 9 years. And, in some case, they were physical products that they hadn't raised their rates for a long time, and they were eating all of those costs. And in that case, we had to have a communication plan in place to let the clients that were longtime clients know, listen, my costs have gone up and I've just been eating these costs for you for the last 7 years. So it is time for us to have a rate increase. Here's what it's going to look like. If you want to buy things before the rates increase, feel free to make a large order. But it's really, so many people are nervous about doing it. In my book, I call it the fear factor, because everybody gets really nervous about raising their rates and that they're going to lose business. Yeah. No, that's a good one. And I know that's a difficult conversation to have. I mean, do you think to some extent that a lot of small business entrepreneurs that work closely, they're the owner of the business and they work closely with the clients, might have a courage barrier in delivering bad news to clients because they see that, they work directly with them. Whereas when you sit several layers removed, that's a little easier to, let them deliver. Have your sales go out and tell everybody prices went up. So easy. But I agree with that. And that's why I call it the fear factor. But I think one of the things that people listening or watching today need to think about is that the announcement needs to be integrated with, this is the value we're providing. This is the value you're getting out of our product or service. This is the value we're continuing to offer to you. And in some cases, for example, I had a client I did a fast cash masterclass this week. And, she said, working with me in my mastermind, she went from $1,500 to, I think it was $6,500 for her top package. That was her holy crap package. And so she had put 3 different packages together. And as soon as she hung up on the mastermind call, her next sales call, she sold her holy crap
Wow.
offer. Like the person was like, yeah, I'll take the $6,500 one. Right. So a lot of times it isn't just saying like, here's my new rate. It could be repackaging it. It could be, putting in some things that you might have in your business that would add value to your client that don't cost you a lot of money to provide for
Okay.
them.
No, I love it. Well, you touched on AI earlier, when you were talking about your custom agent. I'm a big proponent of AI in general, and I think you mentioned a great use case. But a lot of business owners are wary of it. It's new and changing really quickly. And also, there's the aspect of a lot of businesses think that AI is going to steal something from them, steal like share or steal opportunities. Where do you fall on the spectrum of like AI is going to make everything better to AI is going to put me out of business? Where do you fall on that spectrum?
It's such a balance, right? Because I think I've been into AI now for 4 years, which is pretty much like a long time in AI ages for business owners, not like the people developing it behind the scenes. And when I first started using AI, I didn't tell anybody.
Well, nobody
And
did. It was really
I run
shameful
two,
back then.
right? And I did I have two masterminds, one that is like $1 million plus under 40 tech
Okay.
entrepreneurs, and another one that's like high 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs. And I started saying to them like, "Oh, I'm doing something with AI. Would you like to know how
Yeah.
I did this?" And they were like, "Oh my gosh, yes." Like they wanted to know
Yeah.
the secrets behind the scenes. So I started integrating the AI more into my mastermind. In fact, my new mastermind 3.0 version has a lot more AI woven
Okay.
into it. But I think, I have kids who are in college, and I have a 22-year-old who is in her senior year of business entrepreneurship, and they're not allowed to use AI. And so I feel like, and my younger one is in her first year of college, and they're at this weird part of AI that they're not allowed to use it, but then they're going to graduate, and everyone that wants to hire them will want them to know how to use
Right. Right.
it. So that was where I felt like as a business coach and consultant that for my clients, I needed to know this tool. Like I studied internet marketing from the very beginning, and I would always bring like, here's the things of internet marketing that you need to do in your business. And so I thought, you know what, for AI, that's why I went and got certified, because I didn't want to just be like, oh, I just learned it on YouTube. And I really, because of my work with Chet Holmes and Tony Robbins, am very strategic about how I approach things. So I've developed my own frameworks to help people. Like I have a sassy AI framework to help it sound like you. So things like that, I think right now it's the opportunity to use it, make hay while the sun is shining. And we don't know what's going to happen in 5, 10, 15,
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah. Well, to that extent, you're advising businesses on how to implement AI. What would you say are some of the first, like one or two workflows that every entrepreneur should implement, in their business? Or, just talking generalities, like what are the low-hanging fruit for people that are starting at absolute zero?
Yeah, so the first thing I will tell you is, and the reason it sounds super basic, but the amount of people that I've done like a AI strategy day with that don't have this done, so I'm telling everybody on podcast, go into your settings and make sure that it has a little switch that says train the model for everyone, and you make sure that is turned off. Because if you don't want your intellectual property to go out and train the rest of the language learning models, you want to make sure that's turned off. So the second thing I would do is train it in your voice. And so and a lot of people, it's funny because my husband is very AI reticent. He works for a big corporation, so they really weren't allowed to use AI. And now they have Copilot within their emails. A lot of the people that I see using it are like, make this sound better, make this shorter, make this longer, make this more professional. And instead, what you want to do is take some of your best writing and send it in there. I have a prompt that shows you like, okay, how to take out the tone and how I construct my sentences and all of that so that it sounds like you. It was funny because one of the articles I uploaded was I was crying on Voxer with Russell Brunson because I was in Russell Brunson's mastermind and, things weren't going the way I wanted them to. But that's the sort of thing that I want my AI to know, that I'm going to be open and honest. I'm going to show emotion. It knows that I put a lot of snarky things in parentheses. So I'll say something and then I'll do like a little funny at the end of my sentence or in the middle of my sentence in parentheses. So I would say definitely train it in your voice and really hone that before you do anything
Okay.
else.
No, I love it. I think that's really valuable. If you could kill one myth about AI, that people commonly believe, what would that be?
That's a good question. A myth about AI. Well, I think people think it's not for them, right? I've had a lot of entrepreneurs come to me and they have not had one iota of AI experience and they're not
Yeah.
technical. So they think if I'm not technical, it's not for me. It is easier than programming your VCR for those of you that remember those days. And so I can take somebody that is not a computer person, doesn't even like to type, right? And get them up and using AI that saves them days per week and per month. And so I think that's really like, don't let the tech scare you. It just sounds scary. Once you start to use it and have it trained for you, it really can make a huge difference for you.
All right. Well, I want to talk about, you've worked alongside Chet Holmes, Tony Robbins, as you mentioned. They're brilliant marketers and business minds. Are there any particular insights that have stuck out to you while working with them? Anything like a mantra that you repeat that you heard in those settings?
That is so good. Yeah. So it's not the resources, it's the
Uh-huh.
resourcefulness that
Yeah.
is huge. Chet always used to say, what you inspect, people respect. And so I think that's important, even if you're a solo entrepreneur, that nobody's inspecting your work or what you're doing. So if you have coaching, if you have a mastermind or some kind of accountability that helps you, and if you don't have that, then you need to have some kind of like write it down in your notebook and check it off or something that's actually showing you that you're taking the actions you want to get to the goal that you want. And then I think the other big thing that stuck with me is I'm in actually the Ultimate Sales Machine, the new version with Amanda Holmes. So I have a case study in there
Nice.
with a client that I took from 6 to 8 figures. And we did the Dream 100. And so that is a big thing of like going after the biggest client. And I recently had a gentleman in my tech mastermind and he developed this product. And so he was like, oh, I have to create the marketing and a website and a sales team and blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, who's the biggest client that would want
Yeah.
this software? That one question, he sold the company to that company. Big acquisition. Then he went off, relaxed, created another software. This weekend, get the message on my WhatsApp. Third deal, like third exit since he's been in the mastermind. So it's like really like what's the biggest lever that you can go after? Like whether it's the client, whether it's the thing that you're doing in your business that's going to get you the biggest return on investment, and approach it that way instead of dealing with the minutia or what one of my coaches used to call the BS funnel of like just feeling like you're being productive.
I love it. That's great. And obviously you sell to like a larger business, that's greater opportunity, but very similar amount of work to selling to a much smaller business. And, so that's.
Yeah. I mean, imagine how many, he would have gone years to make the same amount of sales selling to like all the businesses, right? And have so much more stress. He wouldn't have been in his zone of genius. He would have been in his zone of like, oh my gosh, I hate this.
Yes.
And so for him, it was like, let's go after the big one and do it again. It's repeatable now.
Well, now I know you do a lot of public speaking and presenting. You do seminars, and tell us a little bit about that. Have you had any growing experiences while on stage, like anything that's gone wrong that maybe something we could learn from that not to do, or what are things you have taken away?
Well, I had a very different experience of public speaking than most people because I was a nerd. And so when I was in middle school, junior high, I was in the NFL, not the cool part, the National Forensics League.
Okay.
So this is where you go and you do debate, you do extemporaneous speaking, which has come in handy for doing like millions of podcasts because I never know what you're going to ask me. And so I was trained in the worst time, like 8th grade. I was extremely awkward. And we went to a boys' prep school with like the cutest rich boys that were like all really handsome and dressed in their little suits. And I would have to get up and speak in front of them. So I would say compared to that experience, speaking on stage in front of 500 people doesn't bother me at all. So I think it's just doing it, getting over your fear and knowing that like people are going to feel for you. Even if you're not the best speaker, they're going to take away. You have to come at it with heart. I think that's another thing. Years ago, before my kids were even born, I auditioned to be a speaker for Mark Victor Hansen, who wrote the book Chicken Soup for the Soul, The 1 Minute Millionaire. And I auditioned to be a speaker for him for the 1 Minute Millionaire book tour. And I had to go to New York City. I was in the back of a cab, and I was like, I think I was on like a Nokia phone, like a brick phone, talking to my mom, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm much younger than everybody. And like I said, this was years ago. And I auditioned and I made it as one of the speakers. And there were people that were professional speakers, like NSA speakers, that didn't make it. And I asked the person, they said, why was I chosen when there are people that have like a gazillion years more experience than me? And they said, it was your heart and your spark, right? So I think when you're speaking, you have to come from the heart of like, it's not about you, the person on the stage. It's about your audience. What can you bring to your audience? How can you help them? How can you help them reach their goals? And if you come from that giving heart space versus like, oh, I want to sell my program, you're going to have a much better experience. And so will the audience.
That's fantastic. Well, Stacey, I know there's a lot of ways that people could engage with you or your content. You know, you've got a book on Amazon, you know, you speak publicly, but I know people might be interested in your services directly. How can people find you?
Sure. You can go to staceyhylen.com, Stacey, EY, and because it's a strange spelling, I had to have an acronym. So you can go there, you can take my assessment to see how you can add a zero without the hustle in your business and set up a call. I have a mastermind that, like I said, is going into 3.0 with more AI. It's all based on lifestyle design and my proven strategies to add a zero without a hustle. And then I would say, if you want something really fun to the hidden profits we've been talking about, go to moreclientsandcash.com. Again, moreclientsandcash.com. And you can there's an assessment there. There's a custom GPT there that you can plug in, like, this is the kind of business I have, and it'll walk you through putting some of the hidden profits in there. And then at the end, if you want, you can set up a call to go over it with me and see how we can find you more money.
Fantastic. Well, Stacey, it's been a pleasure. And I think that for businesses, leaders of any kind that are stuck in whatever mode they are, bad mindset or looking for additional profits, I think you'd be a great resource for them. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Well, thanks, Reed. Thanks for a great interview and asking some really great questions. I always love that.
Want to stay ahead of what's actually working in marketing right now? Head over to MarketSurge.io and see how we're helping businesses grow smarter, faster, and louder. That's MarketSurge.io, because your next breakthrough shouldn't be a guess.